I've told you a little bit about who I am, but I've yet to tell you about why I intend to run for office. Well, it's because of these boys. It's because of Davis and Gene and Keller that I seek to serve. You know, since graduating Texas Tech with an engineering degree, I've been employed the entire time in the private sector. And I like what I do. I really like what I do. But I feel compelled to run for office. Not because I want to rub shoulders with the movers and shakers. Not because I have some personal self-interest or private company I want to promote. No, it's because I believe that we have an obligation to Davis, to Gene and Keller, and their generation. You know, we live in the shadows of what has accurately been described as the greatest generation. The generation that came of age and suffered through the Great Depression, that sacrificed in World War II, and then came back home and laid the foundation that provided us with the opportunities that we've enjoyed. You know, so what's going to be our generation's legacy? I mean, that's really something that compels me. And I'm ashamed to say that a big part of our legacy is going to be debt. Today, each worker's share of our national debt is $85,000. That's what we're leaving as an inheritance to these kids. $85,000 worth of debt. And I'm convinced that the crushing weight of this debt is going to rob future generations of the opportunities that we have enjoyed. So the first cornerstone of my platform is that I stand for a balanced budget. Now when people hear that, they say, oh, I get it, so you must be a conservative Democrat. Well, you know, I don't know what conservative means anymore. You know, 8 years ago, we came at the end of a liberal Democratic administration. An administration that had controlled spending and established a budget surplus. And then a conservative party took over and immediately increased spending and put us back into uncontrolled deficit spending. Now, if you were to ask this group about this, their answer would be, well, we had a war going on. That's why we went back into deficits. But I want you to think about this. Here we are sending our young men and women to war. Young men and women that have volunteered to sacrifice their lives, if that's what is needed to defend our country. Yet we have legislators that are not willing to sacrifice their standard of living to support those troops. You know, you can call me old school, and that's really a term that I think that is going to define my campaign, old school. But we need the statesmen that have the moral integrity to make tough decisions, not because of it's popular, but because it is right. I am running for office because I believe that West Texans have this moral integrity, and we need representation that does as well. You know, we have a history of sending representatives like this to Washington. You know, I think back on past representatives like the man that this library is named after, George Mahon. Down in Abilene, Charlie Stenholm, and Omar Burleson. And I'm proud to stand in the shadows of these great public servants and to run as they did as responsible Democrats. And I am committed to live up to the standards that these great men have set. Now, the other reason I'm running on the Democratic ticket is my position on government programs. The Republican position has come to be defined by the phrase, government is not the solution to the problem, government is the problem. And that's led to a philosophy that any government program is wasteful and inefficient and should be banned. Now, I want you to not get me wrong. I have worked my entire life in the private sector, and I believe in the free market. But I also believe that there is a time for government to come alongside the market when it's required for our common good and national security. You know, an excellent example of this is our agricultural policy. The Farm Bill was established back in 1949 and is a lasting legacy of the greatest generation. And, you know, it's not a perfect policy. But if you look at the agricultural policy from the big picture, it had three fundamental goals to the program. Number one is to provide farmers with the opportunity to earn a decent living. Number two, to provide our nation with a stable and affordable food supply. And number three, to provide our nation with a domestic supply for our food sources. This program has accomplished each of these goals, and it's done it while preserving the free enterprise system. We don't have farmers that live on collective farms. We don't go and buy our groceries from a state-owned grocery store. No, the entire industry stays in the private sector, but government has come alongside to provide it the support. And today, our farmers are the most technologically advanced, the most efficient in the world. I believe this is a model that we need to take to other pressing needs that we have in our country. You know, a good contrast to our agricultural policy is our energy program. You know, here we've let free enterprise operate without any clear direction or focused support. You know, whatever source of energy provides the quickest short-term return on investment is going to naturally be pursued in that kind of environment. And so, the result? Today, we are totally dependent on foreign sources for our petroleum needs, leaving us horribly exposed from a national security perspective. I'm convinced that if we would not have had our agricultural program, we would be as dependent today on foreign countries for our food sources as we are today on the Middle East for our energy sources. So the other two cornerstones of my campaign are, one, we've got to preserve our agricultural program and really look at it as a model for what the government can do right, not by taking over industries, but by coming alongside and providing support for vital resources. And number two, we have to have an energy program that is every bit as effective as in providing us with domestic security for our energy needs. So my fourth cornerstone is the establishment of policies that will provide jobs for the future. You know, I work in the high-tech industry, and what I see is that the U.S. remains a leader in the development of innovation. Yet, increasingly, the products that are spawned out of this innovation are manufactured overseas. Now, why is this true? It's not typically because of labor costs, not because labor costs are cheaper overseas. These are highly automated production lines. It's because capital is more easily available in foreign countries. We need to have a system of policies that allow U.S. companies to access that capital here and to create those jobs here so that when Davis and Jean and their children come of age, they have the chance to have the prosperity that we were provided by previous generations. You know,